We're studying in Hebrews. Whoops, I got the wrong date, don't I? Yeah, that's the last time we were here, I believe. Anyway, it can still work as long as that computer goes. We're looking at beginning with chapter 12, verse 1 through 3. I think we discussed this in some measure. Encouraging the saints to persevere during time of temptations, trials, and he makes reference to the examples others have left. I've always found it much more beneficial to think about those who have gone through things that I'm now going through, no matter what it is. If I hate to say it this way, but sometimes I think, well, if they can do it, I can do it. And somebody has a hip surgery, well, they can do it, I can do it too. And I get a little confidence from that. Plus, they can tell you what it's like, and that's always nice to know what's coming. You can get a lot of encouragement from people who have suffered similarly to what you're going through. And he references those folks in chapter 11 that he had written about. He said, when you think you've got it bad, look at what they went through. And they were able to be faithful. They were able to overcome. And if they could do it, you can do it. All you have to do is set your mind that that's what you're going to do. Therefore, in lieu of what we read about in chapter 11, therefore, we also, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, that's the folks of chapter 11. That's the cloud of witnesses that surround us. In James chapter 2, verse 22, James said, do you see that faith was working together with his works, and by works his faith was made perfect? This is one of the things that he points out in chapter 11. The notion, and I know it's a very popular notion, that a person is saved by faith only is not true. I know it's very popular. People like it. That's why it's popular. It's because people like it. The idea that all I have to do is believe and everything's hunky-dory, that's good because it's really easy to believe in God. But it's not true. A person's not going to be saved just because they believe. The Bible actually says that the fool has said in his heart there is no God. So to deny the existence of God makes you a fool. A person's not going to be saved just because they believe. There's something more to belief than what may be understood at first glance. And that's what James points out in chapter 2, that there has to be action. You believe that's good, Only fools don't believe. So it's good that you believe, but do you believe enough that you'll actually do what the Lord wants you to do? There's the difference. It's not whether you believe or don't believe, it's what degree of belief do you have? Do you have enough belief to prompt you to do what the Lord wants you to do? Now, sometimes as Christians, sometimes we have responsibilities and we're afraid to do them. I've been afraid a lot of times. I remember the first time I ever had to go to somebody one-on-one at their house and talk to them about the gospel. Man, I was terrified. I didn't want to do it. I knew that as a Christian, I was supposed to lead others to Christ. I mean, I knew enough to be a Christian myself. I could teach that much to other people. And I knew I had the responsibility to do it because we all are capable of it. But I didn't want to do it because I was afraid. And I put it off for a pretty good while. And finally, I got so tired of myself, I finally bit the bullet and went and done it. Sometimes there's things we don't want to do because we're afraid. Well, fear is greater than our faith in those situations. That was my problem. My fear was greater than my faith. And if I wanted to please God, my faith was going to have to become greater than my fear. And I learned through experience that the only way to accomplish that is to jump in and do it. I had to overcome my fear, or I knew I would never please God. So I did. Sometimes Christians, instead of exercising their faith, they hide in a corner like I did. And if we do that, we're not going to make God happy. I know preachers say all the time that's all it takes, but they're not telling you the truth. You've got to have more faith than you have fear or lazy or indifference or whatever the situation might be. It's very important to understand that. We're surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses. Therefore, let us lay aside every weight and the sin which so easily ensnares us. Every weight. People run with weights to build up muscle. If you're running a race, you don't want to have that weight slowing you down. You get rid of it. If I'm going to run a 100-yard dash, well, I probably won't do anything. I just go up to the line, and when they say go, I just go back to my chair and sit down. Because I'm pretty sure I ain't going to win anyway, all right? But if I thought I could win, I'd empty my pockets. I'd take all the excess baggage off my person, put on the right kind of breeches, get the right kind of shoes, and run the race. That's what I would do if I was going to run a race, thinking I might be able to win it. Well, as a Christian, that's what we're supposed to do also, take off all the excess baggage. Get rid of anything that might hamper us from doing what the Lord would have us to do. And the sin which so easily ensnares us. All of us are given to something that we're tempted by. I'm not tempted, you're not supposed to rob banks, okay? I'm not really tempted not to rob banks because I don't have a desire to rob a bank. I never have had a desire to rob a bank. It's never really been a problem for me. I suppose there's somebody out there that has a problem with it. They want to rob a bank, and they have to fight the temptation. I don't have to fight a temptation. I simply don't have one. I'm not going to rob a bank. But there are other things that I'm tempted by. I'm not going to tell you what they are, just like you don't want to tell me what yours are. But we all know that there's some things that come into our minds that we think about, we ponder, we're tantalized by. They make our juices start flowing. We get excited. Something we want to do. And there's something in all of us that we are given to. It's a sin that can easily ensnare us, entrap us, if we get too close to the flame. Well, Paul's saying, lay it aside. Stay away from it. Don't mess with it. If whatever this thing is that tempts you to sin, don't flirt with it. Put it as far away from you as you can. Because if it's out of sight, it's out of mind. If it's out of mind, you don't have to worry so much about it. Sometimes we catch ourselves in a mess because we were flirting around with the wrong thing, and we shouldn't have. So don't do that. Let us run with endurance. You got to keep on keeping on. You got to run your race. Everybody's got their own race to run. I've been running my race. You've been running your race. And we have to do it without giving up. This is, I think, the hardest thing about being a Christian is not giving up or giving in. It's easy to become a Christian if you can believe and repent, but remaining faithful, that's the tough part, because things get old day after day after day after day. It's like going to work. Boy, give me a life. This is the way it is sometimes being a Christian. We get bored. There's nothing new. There's nothing exciting. We watch all the other people doing exciting, fun things, and we can't engage. And it bothers us some. And sometimes when we're down in a low spot, we may give into it. We have to be realistic. This stuff about us being flawless, that's a bunch of hooey. We're not flawless. We're all tempted. We all want to sin sometime or other because it's going to feel good, and we know it. It's going to bring us pleasure, and we understand that. And we're going to want to do it from time to time. The question is, how do I keep myself away from that? How do I keep myself at a safe distance? How do I respond? You have to run with endurance, without giving up, and without giving in. Looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith, who for the joy set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Jesus found joy in going to the cross. It's not that he laughed all the way to the cross, but he found a satisfaction because he understood, he knew that it was through this hour of suffering, he knew that it was going to make the salvation of millions and millions of people possible. He dreaded the cross, remember? If it be possible, let this cup, let this portion of my life pass by. If it's any other way, please don't make me go to this cross. But your will be done, Father. As in all things, if there is no other way, I'll gladly go to the cross. And he did. Why? Because of the value of it. He knew that there was profit to it. He was going to die, but he knew that because of this, many people were going to live. And therefore, he took it. Gladly, he took it. For the sake of others. A Christian is a person who puts others before himself, concerned about the happiness of others, the safety of others, the joy of others, the salvation of others. Because we know that when our time comes, we've got a home in heaven. So we spend ourselves now for those who don't have a home there yet, in hopes that they too may receive one. Small price to pay. Jesus endured the cross with joy because he knew what was going to happen. He despised the shame. Death by crucifixion was probably the worst way a man could have died at that time. It'd be like being hung or going to the electric chair. You know, today people, wear crosses and all that stuff around their necks. In the first century, nobody would have wore a cross around their neck. It was a shameful, shameful death. It's not the kind of thing you would celebrate. It's like today, could you imagine somebody walking around with an electric chair around their neck, on the end of a chain, or a hangman's noose? It's not something you celebrate. It's something you despise, you detest. It's a horrific way to have to die. And Jesus despised the shame of his death. The fact that he had to die a criminal, a convicted criminal, a blasphemer of God, a blasphemer of himself, and that all the people that witnessed his death would look at him as a criminal who deserved to be beaten and to be nailed to the cross. He was going to be known as a loser, an evil man, a terrible, terrible man by his constituents. And he despised that fact, that it was going to be that way. Oh, one day it would change, yeah, but not for the moment. For the moment, and he lived in the moment, it was going to be a horrible, horrible thing. And he would be looked at as a horrible, horrible person. He despised that. But he went to the cross anyway, even though he detested it. And after it was over, he sat down at the right hand of God, taking up his rule as the king over heaven and earth. None of it was for himself. It was all for us. As a matter of fact, the only thing you say about Jesus through the process is he lost. He came out with the short end of the stick. He went through everything he went through, and he got nothing from it other than the personal satisfaction that he helped bring about the salvation of us. But for his own part, all he did was lose 3 decades of the glory of being with his Father. But that's the mind of God. That's the way God thinks. That's the way God is. His concern is on others rather than himself. And we're supposed to be in the image of God. The little lessons we see as we go forward, these are lessons we got to pick up on, because these are attributes or qualities that you and I have to learn to possess, to be made in the image of God at least. We need to learn. Consider him. When the world's load gets very heavy, this is the point to verse 2, or verse 3 rather. Remember Jesus and the load he bore. That's what I mentioned a few moments ago. The suffering of other people, why you're not glad they suffered. Because they did suffer, you can find some consolation in their suffering. They went through it and they survived. I can go through it and survive. There's always some consolation from the suffering that others have gone through. And in our case, when things get heavy, consider Jesus and what he went through. Sometimes I get in a pity party about things being tough, But look at the Lord, what he went through. If he can go through that, what have I got to complain about? Why would I fuss about my problems? Why would I fuss about going on a trip to India, for example, and going out in the bushes and try to convert those folks? Going in amongst people that didn't like us. Sometimes people that had machine guns and didn't like us a little bit. Why do I have to do that? But then what about the Lord, what he had to go through? Consider his plight. Consider his cup. You think you got it bad? Remember what he lived with, what he went through. I haven't gone through anything like he did. What do I have to complain about? If I complain in lieu of the Lord's suffering, if I think I've got it worse than anybody, I'm missing something. I'm missing something. Second section, verses 4 through 11. Patience required. That's the big one. That's the tough part. Chastisements for spiritual improvement, to help us become stronger spiritually. It's a way to exercise spiritual muscle. We don't know how to exercise spiritual muscle unless we're taught, okay? The Lord's going to teach us how we do it. Verse 4, you have not yet resisted the bloodshed, striving against sin. Nobody's cut you or shot you yet because you believe in Christ. They will, the day's coming, but as of right now, that's not the problem you're suffering with. Oh yeah, you're being disfellowshipped. Yeah, you can't go to the corner market and buy groceries. Yeah, whenever your kids go to school, they beat them up because they're Christians. But you haven't yet resisted the blood. Nobody's drawn blood yet. That hasn't happened, but it will. The word yet is very meaningful. And you have forgotten the exhortation which speaks to you as to sons. My son, do not despise the chastening of the Lord, nor be discouraged when you are rebuked by him. The Lord, he doesn't literally pick up a switch and wear us out with it. But he does allow us to suffer because it can be beneficial. Suffering can. Paul had a thorn in the flesh, you recall. And he concluded that the thorn in the flesh was beneficial because it kept him from getting the big head, because he had so many gifts of the Holy Spirit. As long as he had this thorn in the flesh, it kept his feet on the ground. He couldn't think of himself to be more than what he really was. And the Lord knows our temperament. He knows our disposition. He knows what we're going to do and how we're going to respond to various things in life. And he knows how to help us, not hurt us. Oh yeah, it hurts. But it's not about hurting, it's about helping. It's about keeping us from getting a big head and going off into left field. Don't despise the chastening of the Lord. And don't be discouraged as though you're the only person that's ever suffered. For whom the Lord loves, he chastens, and he scourges every son whom he receives. If you belong to Christ, I guarantee you're going to the woodshed. And you're going to go to the woodshed several times. Because this is how he reaches out and helps us exercise our spiritual muscles. How else do you exercise your spiritual muscles? Does anyone know of another way? The only way I know how to exercise the spiritual muscle it's got to be because the Lord has told us how we do it. And this is one such instance. It's not the only way, but it is one way. And the Lord uses it because he loves us, not because he hates us. That's what B.R.'s grandmother used to say all the time. B.R. told it in the class one time over in Little Kids. And Caden and Janie, they were little kids. And one day I had to get a hold of Janie and put the ouch on her. And went to class the next day, Bible class, and BR said, using this verse, said, you don't spank a child because you hate him. You spank him because you love him. And Caden said, boy, Uncle John sure loves Janie, doesn't he, Grandma? BR. It's love that makes you do it. And we all know it. We forget it sometimes when it happens to us. But when we have to chastise our children, we know it's because of love. We don't want to do it sometimes. I mean, you really don't want to do it, but you got to do it because the child's got to learn. You've got to do something. You can't just sit there and do nothing. You know the child will turn out to be a child that nobody likes. And none of us want people to not like our kids. We want them to be liked and accepted. That's why we go to all the trouble we do to help mold them and shape them, that they'll become what they really want to be. And that's what God does with us through life. And chastisement's one of the ways he does it. But it's because of love, not hate. If you endure the chastening that the Lord puts on you, God's just dealing with you as with sons. That's evidence that you're a child of his. For what son is there whom a father does not chasten? There's no such thing. If it's a man's son, he's going to chasten the child, and the only child he won't chasten is the son that doesn't belong to him, somebody else's son. If you are not chastened by the Lord, it's because the Lord is invested in you. You don't belong to him. He'll let your other father discipline you, but he won't. If you are without chastening, of which all have become partakers, then you are illegitimate. You're not sons. You're not really a child of God. And the lack of discipline, the lack of chastening, the lack of suffering is indicative of the fact that the Lord has no interest in you. Furthermore, we have had human fathers who corrected us, and we paid them respect. Shall we not much more readily be in subjection to the Father of spirits and live? If we respected our daddies and we took their discipline, wouldn't it be easier to take the discipline of the God of heaven over an earthly father? They indeed for a few days chastened us as seemed best to them. That's all they got, is what they feel is the best thing to do. But God does what he does for our profit, to help us become better people. That's what the chastening's all about. It's not merely to keep us out of the road, from playing in the road. He's molding and shaping us that we may be partakers of his holiness. I don't really know how to do that. I know how to do it to some degree, how to help a child become holy, but I'm sure I can't touch the hem of the garment of what the Lord can do when he trains people to be holy. By far superior to my efforts. My efforts are good. They're necessary, but they can be surpassed by the efforts of the Lord himself. Chastening seems to be joyful for the present, but painful. I never felt joy when I was chastened by Daddy. The only thing I remember, one time my sister and I don't know why she did it. She started laughing, of all things to do. Daddy was whooping on me, and for some reason she got a nervous tickle, and she started laughing. And I guess I started laughing because she was laughing. And there we were, both of us were laughing. And Daddy whooping on us. And he'd say, "You better quit laughing." And I was trying to quit laughing with all my might. And I couldn't quit laughing. I'd start snickering and humping up, getting tickled. And he getting madder and madder and madder. And he wore us out pretty good that day. That wasn't a sign of me being joyful. That was pure nerves. That's all that was. It's not fun. It's never fun to be chastened. It is painful, but there's a profit to it. This is the thing you have to think about. There's a rainbow, or treasure, I guess, at the end of the rainbow. Nevertheless, afterward it yields the peaceable fruit of righteousness. I heard a woman Bible teacher one time, she likened this unto having a baby. Very painful experience, but afterward you had the fruit of righteousness that you could live with for years to come. I thought that was a fair illustration of what Paul's talking about. Those who have been trained by being chastised, these are the ones who can appreciate the value of chastisement. It's not that they get pleasure out of it. It's not that they find joy in it, because they don't. It hurts. But they understand that on the other side of the suffering, there's a lot of value awaiting them at that time. That brings us to the next section. Follow after peace and holiness, avoid bitterness and strife. Verses 12 through 17. It's hard not to be bitter when you suffer. Let me get through this real quick. Therefore, strengthen the hands which hang down and the feeble knees. Make straight paths for your feet, so that what is lame may not be dislocated, but rather be healed. Knowing that there is a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, so to speak, stand upright as best you can. Walk straight as much as possible. Hold your head up, because you know that something better is coming your way. Pursue peace with all people and holiness. Try to be at peace. Don't try to be a division maker. Don't look for a fight. Don't go starting a fight. Try to live a life of peace. It seems like sometimes some people love misery. They like to be miserable, and in the process, they make other people miserable. I don't know why anybody would feel that way, but some people apparently do. I don't like being miserable. I'd rather just be at peace and not have a problem, not be involved in a problem. But sometimes, some people, they seem to like misery, and I've never been able to understand that. So we pursue peace, and we try to be holy. We're working on that part. Every day we try to be more holy, more like God, more like Jesus. We try to be more faithful when we pray than we were last week. We try to think on things that are righteous, that are good, more than we have previously. We're constantly striving to be more like God. Pursue peace with all people. All this racial stuff that goes on, this is the most unnecessary problem that exists, in my opinion. And a lot of it, in our country at least, our culture, a lot of it is due to what is called science. That is not science. Evolution is at the root of a lot of this racist problem. Evolution teaches that one group of people is superior to another group of people. And people through the years have believed that. That's one of the reasons why black people were made slaves. It had a lot to do with the evolutionary thought, but we don't have time to talk about that right now because the children are back. And you know what happens when the children are back, don't you, Jimmy? Time for me to hush. So I'm going to hush. And we'll start here next week, God willing.